have lost a lot of money in the last 3 days because they can't go to because flights were not coming in. So I know it's going to be, and a lot of people will be heading out today.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to switch with my sister.
Yeah.
Sometimes the two people.
Yeah.
If I would see, I want to go to see.
So there's no key.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, that's only
Yeah.
Judas child. So really we try to ask if more kids can make it. But so you guys don't worry. These kids here.
Quick spaces.
You know, now I just say, like, why should I bring those Somalian people? They live in Abu should I bring them?
Oh,
Yeah.
I do know yesterday I wanted to tell you that if there's anybody who wants to come, they could come along.
It's true.
Yeah, that's all right. No problem.
We
I
have
nearly said it in the message.
they came
Yeah,
now.
they could come with the kids. But can they drive it?
No.
Oh, they can.
Yeah, that's
And that I was going to say, tell them if they want to
yeah.
come around.
If they drive a
We can
car,
only do the best.
yeah,
Might wear, you know.
Maybe yes, maybe no, yes,
Yeah.
right. It's not harm.
Exactly. There's no harm in trying.
Yeah,
If we don't try, we never know.
yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's squeeze here. That's the program. Awesome. You want that one sit in the front?
I don't mind anywhere, but I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe if you come in the bed and come
Yeah,
in.
it might be warm at the front.
Yep.
Did the girls go to take the spoons?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm? This way? We'll just take them back when it's time to pack down.
Alright.
In case, you know, a big crowd arrives, you never know. I'll send another reminder.
Let me send Judah the link.
Yes, please send it to Judah.
Yeah, so I can send out.
So, can she see them?
I'm going to send out to the children.
But the live.
Oh,
Oh yeah, you can see.
he doesn't want to be on camera.
Yes, yes. Yeah, you can see them. Because
Oh, here. So it's just your back. Yeah.
so can be just the back
And
of
the camera actually usually will be facing here, so.
I sit there?
Yeah.
See myself. I'll film and then come and sit in the
Yeah.
Not just that.
Because you know the community that start off with
Or all the
prayer.
That's real.
Yes. And then you can do like here, and then we ask them to speak. And then we do a Q&A session after them have spoken. And then one and then we move come back. Introduce Louis, and then Louis will do a bit of presentation. The numbers are at that point, people can make this like, maybe I will let you start. The camera will be table. So you can start.
Ya udah, Fanau, Dumelang, Assalamualaikum. Yeah, my name is Judah. I am the manager of Changemakers Settlement Forum. So I thought everyone can hear me. Okay, so I'm the general manager of Changemakers Settlement Forum. So this event here today is really about prevention of family harm, and we are partnering with African Communities Council just to have a discussion around that. So I think maybe before we start, we should start with an opening prayer. Anyone want to do a prayer? Okay. Okay, let's start with an opening prayer. Om Ranara Halebo Halanatori healing, Brother Health Silin, Aine Lizilla Palahano, Malano. Amen.
Amen.
So, okay, Fred. So from African Communities Council, we have Wallace here, and Fred, who is Frederick, who is busy now doing here. He's the lead leader of this project. He's from ACCW, African Communities Council. So he will come up and introduce our people who will be facilitating, who will be speaking here on this topic. Fred? Oh, emergencies, sorry. Safety. I forgot about the important stuff. So we know about the earthquake in the case of the earthquake. We all know what to do, right? Cover, hold. And the toilets are just here or just outside this, they're on the left-hand side. There's a couple of doors on the left-hand side. And there's also another couple of toilets, the two doors further down the way. And in case of fire, we all get out, and the assembly point is out there in the open area or over by the playground. That's it. So I'll call on Fred. Guest speakers for today.
Yes. Thank you, Judah. And so thank you all for coming. I'm just going to speak to a few things, and then maybe we will make a quick start. And apologies to our online, those joining us online for the list of the program. So some of the things I want to talk about before I introduce our first speaker is to basically talk about why we are here today. So the reason why we are here is that we want to talk about how we are able to prevent family and sexual violence in our communities. Now, this very program, or if you like, session has been made possible through funding that we have received from the Ethnic Communities Innovative Fund from the Ministry of Social Development. So our sponsors or our funders for this very project are the Ministry for Social Development. Now, we all know that and we might have heard in various forums that there is a lot of violence in our community and in our family. Now, the reality of the issue is that we cannot say that it doesn't happen, because the report shows that it happens and that the statistics show that it is underreported. Now, what government is looking for is how ethnic communities, of which Africans are also classified as ethnic communities, how we are able to provide resources and solutions within our own community to stop the menace from happening in the first place. So it's not so much around what is the causes, what do we do about it, that it's all about prevention. But we also don't lose the fact that we don't want to take it for granted that people actually understand what it is. For you to be able to talk to people about the issue, you start from a point of knowledge. And so we started on a clean slate to make sure that we understand what it means, what the law says about it, and what can we do about it. And with that understanding, then we can now say, okay, based on what we understand, this is what we think we can do to prevent it from happening in the first place. And that's the reason why we are here. And the speakers that we have lined up for today will speak to the issues, and I will introduce them when the time comes. But just to reiterate that the African Communities Council, which is undertaking this project, is today's focus is for former refugees. Now, why are we focusing on former refugees? We are focusing on former refugees because, unlike other people who have found their way to New Zealand, or people come to New Zealand through different pathways. I came here, I can use myself as an example, as a student initially, and then after that, I decided to stay in New Zealand. There are people who came from greener pastures, they were looking for work, and work brought them in. But we know the unique experience of former refugees who came here because of issues that were happening in their countries, which we are not going to go into. So in their case, it was not so much around their willingness to come, but processes and Communities Council, when we were giving this funding, decided that we are going to have a special session purposely for former refugees, because it is important that we listen to their perspective on how we can prevent it, and to also share their own experiences around this very particular thing. And so that's the reason why we are here. But of course, it is also open to all Africans who live in this part of town, and other people from ethnic communities, as we have them, you here present. And so, if you are here this morning, you are not at the wrong place, you are actually at the right place. And we are very happy to have you, whichever community you come from, whichever persuasions that you come from, we are happy that you are here to have that conversation. Because at the end of the day, it's a national conversation that is going on. So kia ora, and thank you for coming. And so this is the reason why we are here. And without wasting much time, I'm going to introduce our first speaker. That's Phil, who is from New Zealand Police. He's a senior ethnic engagement advisor. The STW is grateful for Phil's time and for his willingness to, anytime that we have contacted him, for him to speak on this matters and other related matters. He's more than willing to come. And I tell you a story of my first encounter with him was when we had the men's event, which was led by, forgotten the name of the organization. I'm sure Giovanna is going to beat me that I have forgotten the name.
Was it Shama?
Shama, thank you. Thank you for saving your brother. It was Shama. And that conversation, of course, Judah was the one who actually sold me to Shama, to Giovanna, so I know. And Phil and his other colleague were at the session where men were talking about this whole issue around violence and how men can be better and how we can build our mental health issues and all that. And it came to me that Phil spoke very passionately about the issues in the perspective of the police and what happens in the community and all that. And so we thought that he would be a better person to be here this morning to talk to us. And so Phil will be talking about the dynamics and what the law says on family and sexual violence and some of the de-escalation strategies that we can adapt so that we can prevent it from happening in our communities in the first place. I would give the platform to Phil now. I think I've been here and I think I've overstayed my presence. So Phil, if you are here, please take it away. Thank you very much. Let's clap for Phil.
Kia ora koutou everybody, Shane Nuffin, to the Simara Bala Parasa at Master Hamzin, Mahon was family home, or the Simara the African Community Council, Jamila and Yohanna. So I just introduced in my mother tongue, which is Assyrian, a very old language, and I think above and beyond presenting about these quite heavy and sensitive topics, I think we need to bring a sense of who we are as well to the table. And like a lot of us here today, I too come from a refugee background. I arrived as a young person. My parents were originally from Iraq. Obviously I've grown up in New Zealand, so I consider myself an Assyrian Kiwi. So as I've said in my previous presentations last Saturday, the issue of identity, I find, is at the heart of a lot of some of the struggles, challenges and opportunities we face as not only migrants but as refugees coming to Aotearoa, New Zealand. And I definitely had my fair share of doubts about who am I. Lucky for me, I had some mentors at a young age to figure out actually what is my place in Aotearoa, and then secondly, what is my calling? Who am I? And I know a lot of our young people struggle with that. Grapple with that in terms of what do my parents want, what does the local environment want, what does that shape me to be. So I just want to sort of put that out there because I have a passion for our young people and I know the sacrifices that our parents have made to come to a place like New Zealand, and I truly believe that if we invest in our young people at a young age, and we'll get to that shortly, we'll see better results and outcomes for them. And a lot of it has to do with balancing what it means to parent in a place like New Zealand. But that's me, Phil, been in the police for 16 and a half years. I often say that I was never destined to be a police officer. When I was younger, if you asked me this question at 21 when I was at university, I would have said, no, hell no, not the police. I was doing some youth work alongside some young people who didn't have driver's licenses and were getting in trouble with the police. We had a community constable who helped me out in terms of getting funding and getting licenses for these young people, which helped a lot in the prevention space. And I met this police officer and it sort of broke all the stereotypes out of the police. He was lovely, he was very welcoming, very helpful, very community-minded, and like a lot of young people, yeah, I had a certain perception growing up in lower socioeconomic settings. He changed the narrative for me and said, have you thought of joining the police? I was at university, 21, I was quite active in sports and thought, okay, give me a book, still have it, and I read it and I thought, wow, this is me. So I was, I believe, potentially an agent of change in my community, because prior to that we didn't have any Assyrian police officers and we had a very dim view of government in general based on our experiences back home. I remember, and I always say this, when I sort of broke the news to my parents, I remember mum and dad thought I was, you know, there was something wrong with me. They said, police, you want to be police? What is wrong with you? Doctor, lawyer, maybe teacher, police? No. Yeah, no, this is being recorded, so that's my dad's accent. But then they warmed up to it after a few years and seeing some of the stuff that we're doing in the community. Then they go, oh, my son, police, very good, police highlight. They started showing me off, and it's like, Dad, 5 years ago or less, you were like, what are you doing? So they come around, and I hope to think that, you know, others in our communities can be agents of change. I was talking to this beautiful lady here about the potential of having recruitment within your community, which would be amazing. I think we need more African police officers today. I can count them on my fingers, how many we have, and I think it's one thing for us to advocate for change from the outside, protesting and petitions and all that. I think the real change is actually, do we have what it takes to take that step, that leap of faith, and be an agent of change internally? And I can vouch what I've done, and just by being a police officer, being a Syrian, just at least those immediately around me are aware of what Assyrians are. And likewise, I think in your community. So that's my little recruitment pitch. And those of you watching, if this triggers anything, then please reach out to Judah and the team, Wallace, and the rest of the team who will put you in contact. But again, thanks to the organisers, for all of you, for the good mahi you do in your community. It doesn't go unnoticed, even though we don't see all the hard work in the background to make these things happen. There's a lot of logistics, so I just want to acknowledge you all, Judah and the team. Sure. So we're going to go straight into what I'm here to talk about, which is family harm. So I preface this by saying that it is obviously a very sensitive topic. I don't mince my words when I say there are different points of views about what family harm means, what is generally referred to as domestic violence. So we've taken a different approach. We call it family harm because domestic violence is more of a specific definition. Family harm encompasses sort of a wide-eyed approach where harm doesn't have to be violence, harm can come in different forms, and also family doesn't just mean husband, wife, children. Family can be those who live with you in an ongoing romantic relationship or a familial relationship with you. So it could be a flatmate, it could be a best friend who lives with you for 6 months or more, or whatever the case may be. So it extends the lens to encompass those who normally live around you. And the reason for that is there is a particular risk involved with people who live with you, where there is what we say in Māori, rari between you. It's very different from a stranger being stranger. So if you have an issue with somebody, say, on the street, the risk profile is a bit different from those who you live with. Why? Very obvious: accessibility, familiarity, and you're in each other's faces. So obviously the risk is increasing. And a lot of the stuff that I'm going to say, Louise, who's here, is an absolute expert in the space. She's worked for vulnerable women for most of her career. She's a better place to talk about this stuff than me, but I've just got to do my part. So when you call police, I understand that a lot of us may not, may not be fluent in English. So if you do call police, make it known the language you speak. Even if you say help, help police know English, and then just say whatever language it is you have. For the main languages, we will find and interpret it quite quickly. Main languages being like Cantonese, Spanish, Arabic, Japanese, etc. Some of the more particular languages that we may have, we may not have people then and there, but we'll do the best we can to find someone within the police or outside to help you out, okay? So don't think I can't call police because I don't speak English. Please call us. Even if it's just help and tell us the location, we'll do the rest. As long as we know you need help, we know where you are, we'll deal with it, whether it's a cat stuck in a tree or something really serious. Okay, so family harm, a very brief description, a definition that we want to work with. It is when a person harms or controls a family member or someone they're in a close and personal relationship with, family relationship. The harm or control can be physical, emotional, psychological, financial, or dowry-related, sexual, or combination of these. So Ministry of Justice definition is what we've taken, and it's a wide-eyed approach. Now, as you see there, it goes beyond just physical. So there's psychological harm. Can anybody give me, sort of take a guess at what is psychological harm? What's an example? Gaslighting. Gaslighting? Yeah, can you elaborate on that?
Okay. So, essentially, it's using your, I would say it's using your words with power over someone to crush their brain and their thoughts and their mind, essentially. Psychologically, like, you just push them down and squish them until they have no self-esteem.
That makes sense. So it's sort of stripping their mana away from them, slowly but surely, belittling. Anybody else want to give it a go? Psychological harm? Louise, you're not allowed to answer. So yeah, pretty much. I mean, psychological harm, there are some very grey areas. I mean, to prove psychological harm, there's certain tests you have to go through. Some are more fall in the grey area, and some are quite evident. So threats of abuse, financial threats, direct threats, things like that are easier to sort of I guess, prove or define. But basically, the construct I'd like to share is, we can get into the nuance of family harm and a lot of other kind of harm. But if we look at the bedrock of all of this, it's as simple as this, and I can sort of say it in a sentence or two, is when we live here in New Zealand, living in New Zealand, every person should live and has the right to live free of physical harm and psychological harm. So physical harm, which we know is slapping, punching, pushing, hurting, physically, and psychological harm, threatening, what you said, kind of gaslighting, that sort of stuff. And that is irrespective of who the perpetrator is, whether it's a stranger, I'll come to you in a second, whether it is a family member. So just because this is my husband, just because this is my wife, just because this is my cousin, my brother, my child, my daughter, it does not matter. So too often sometimes comfort creates that sort of thought that actually because it's someone who I care about, I have special privileges over. So what we're saying is if we understand that bedrock, that simple definition of living in New Zealand, means you have the right to live free from A, B and C, or that it applies in every situation. Now we know that in the family harm space, it can be a bit more blurred, because we know there are relationships where there are cultural factors that are at play. What is the role of a man and a woman in a relationship can vary from culture to culture. While you respect and try to understand cultural dynamics, believe me, I grew up in the cultural dynamics, I understand it. The law is the law, and it will consider to an extent the cultural dynamics, but at the end of the day, we have a responsibility, not as police, but as New Zealand citizens, because we're only one little sliver of the bigger picture, as I think Fred was mentioning, that this is an issue that affects all of New Zealanders, family harm. We're one little smidgen of the pie. We can't solve the issue. We're but sort of one of the agencies who try to assist. So while we consider culture, we still have a responsibility to attend when we're called, and our attendance is usually misconstrued as we're there to arrest and lock up and throw the key away. And sure, for some high-end cases, maybe that is the case, but generally speaking, no. Generally speaking, is we'd like to hear from you, even though there is shame and dishonour in some cultures about that, we would rather attend and try our best, maybe not to solve them in there, but at least put some mechanisms in place to protect the vulnerable person or the vulnerable people and get the right experts to come, because we're not psychologists, we're not counsellors, we're not pretending now, we get the right people in here. But importantly, the more we know, the more we can do. And our kaupapa isn't, I'm going to use Judah and his wife, because you're right here in the front. So let's say there's a family harm disturbance being called between you and your lovely wife, and we attend, and let's just say Judah's the perpetrator, and he's, I don't know, done something that he shouldn't have done. So our primary goal isn't to go there and go, we don't care about the victim, we just care about holding this person to account, and here's the handcuffs, and go. No. We'll separate you to ensure that there is no violence that happens. We will obviously have to hold Judah to account, but more importantly, because that's the easy one, right? Arresting someone's there, that's easy. The hard part is actually what are the underlying issues that need to be addressed as to why this is happening in the first place. Similarly, we've got to talk to the victim or the complainant and find out what it is about the relationship, what it is about the dynamic factors in the family that we can help work. And again, we can't answer those questions. We'd like to engage experts. Now, if it's a minor case of, let's say, Judah has said some unsavoury words, or maybe a very light push or something, and the wife has called us, that's a good thing in terms of calling, it's not the actual violence. But that's a good thing they've called us, because if we can engage early on, what we find, and Louise will know more about this, is family harm, generally speaking, doesn't go downwards, it usually escalates. So without the right intervention, today it's an argument, tomorrow it's a push, the next day it's a punch, the next year it could be murder, or not saying that always happens, but generally it goes like this. It's hardly ever, we don't do anything, it goes down. So this may be something small, and we put the right mechanisms in place to help Judah and to help the family. Our job isn't to separate you. Our job isn't to ruin your family because you've got kids together. Our job is to say, we want you to be together, but you both have to be safe. That is what we want, because we don't want 2 years later get a call where something really bad is happening. And usually what you find is human beings don't, out of just because they want to, harm others. Usually there are underlying factors. And the things that come to mind usually are substance abuse, addiction to alcohol or drugs. There could be financial problems, there could be mental health, undiagnosed problems. There could be cultural, or what you've seen is what you do. So there's all of these factors, and there's many more that we usually sort of, with the right interventions, figure out pretty quickly. They don't have to be one or the other, they can be a combination of different things. So Judah may be out of work, he's struggling financially to feed his family, he wants to do the best he can. They fight over financial, the last Christmas they had shopping and there's no more money. It could also be that underlying there is a cultural expectation that he's understood as being normal, or underlying all that, there could also be some trauma that he doesn't know about and is left undiagnosed. Sorry, I'm painting you very badly, Julia. You're none of these things. So that's our job, is to say, actually, it's happened, right? Okay, we know it, we'll hold you to account. But actually, the best long-term solution is how can we help you? Unfortunately, the buy-in isn't always there normally. Sometimes when we get immediate buy-in, we're only as good as the willingness of the participant. And without that buy-in, it does get pretty hard. It's a lot easier when people want to engage with services. So that's just to let you know our kaupapa of why we attend family harm. It used to be that it was a personal, private matter. What me and my wife get up to is none of your business. Unless there's a knife and somebody's going to kill me, then you call police. What we've learned the hard way, and this is through research and experience, is actually it's a broken windows policy. It starts here and it ends up here. So we'd like to intervene, because when we turn up and do nothing and okay, you're all good, cool, see you later, we take you by your word, we leave, we usually get called back. Maybe a day, a week, a year, and we see the harm. And it's ultra complex. Because unlike stranger v. stranger, so let's say Judah and his wife do not know each other and it's randomly in the street and she complains, this man harassed me, that's very easy because there's no emotional tie, right? Because it's pretty black and white, why'd you do this, yada yada yada, here's a statement from you, cool man, that was wrong and we're going to hold you to account and there is no emotional tie, so the complainant will be very willing to engage. But when it's a husband and wife, a de facto, siblings, whatever, it is hard. And I empathise because you love this person. The last thing you want is to get them into trouble, or at least perceived to be in trouble. So we try our best, and we have experts in the field who help us navigate these very sensitive issues. Now, where it affects us as refugees, I'm generalising here because I can't go into every single community group, because every community is different, and we've got dozens of different community groups, is my experience is what does family harm even mean in our cultures, because it may look very different from that, and also what are the structures that are normal in our communities that may not be as applicable in New Zealand.
Yes.
And that includes what is the role of the husband, the wife, and the role of disciplining children.
Yes.
Okay, how do we discipline children? I mean, I know from my experience, and a lot of our community experience, is discipline through fear. So it's a fear-based or a shame-based environment. I'm not saying that's everybody, but generally in my experience it's that. Now the challenge here is how do we as parents navigate without losing our culture? So I'm not here to advocate lose your culture or lose no. There are beautiful things about our culture. I love the language, I love the food, I love the camaraderie, the community feel. We're not just individuals, we belong. We have a church, we have a mosque, we have a faith. So we are united in those ways that are very unique to us. We love that. But let's be quite frank, there are other things, in my culture in particular, that I will be the first to say, and you can disagree, that have no place in New Zealand. For example, in my community as a Middle Easterner, there is such thing as arranged or forced marriage. And I'll be the first to say, sorry, safety of the individual first before the culture in these cases. Let's talk about things like female genital mutilation, which is culturally practiced in some parts of the world. That's part of some cultures. Probably not acceptable here, absolutely not. Now we go to those are the more obvious ones. Now we get to the more subtle ones, like we discipline children through smacking, or through the old jandal, or in some cases the belt. And I'm not saying it's exclusively our thing, we see it in Pacific communities and other communities. Now, how do we navigate that in a New Zealand context? It's not easy. Does anybody have any experiences or any expertise in how do we, if we're used to disciplining through what we call as violence, how do we now, because we can't just unlearn things, that is a challenge for a lot of us, how do we sort of adapt? Let's call it philosophy on this, is basically the paradigm has changed from a fear-based parenting model to a care or love-based. So respect can still be earned through love, rather than just how I understood it as fear exclusively. The other thing I find is when migrant parents or refugee parents arrive to New Zealand, usually everything is okay because they're busy finding accommodation, they're busy getting a job, they're too busy actually finding their feet. Now, when things come to our attention is usually years later, when the children start growing up in New Zealand, they compare their lives to their friends. She has a boyfriend, why can't I have a boyfriend? She's on TikTok, why can't I be on TikTok? These things that are culturally inappropriate for us, so I see some people nodding their heads, taboo for our communities, especially for our females. I mean, our males get the free ride, let's be quite honest, and there is that disparity between how we treat our daughters versus our boys, our sons. So these things start to manifest, and then there's a concept of losing control. The parents can't control it, the dad no longer has the mana that maybe they had back home. And so then we resort to ways that probably don't help. So that's when we see these manifestations, and though we can look at the symptom when it's happened, I always like to go, well, what was the cause? And usually it's not a week before, it's not the party a month ago, it wasn't the TikTok videos a year ago, it was actually 5, 10 from birth years ago, when potentially I'm picking on the fathers, but the past did I have an active role in my children's upbringing? Did I take an active role? Was I interested in what they had to tell me at the age of 5? You know, when they wanted to do musical drama or do a song, and I ruled it off, and I said, no, that's not happening, I don't have time. So I always say this, and I say this because I've got nephews and nieces, is one thing that maybe we struggle with sometimes. And I understand, back home, the father had a different job. He had to be out there working hard, coming out to see his children, and vice versa with mothers. And reality meant we didn't have that capacity or luxury to invest. So where we can invest in our children, we won't always agree, but I can not guarantee, I'm quite confident that investment early on will mean the difference that when they're 16 and have their rights and they want to leave home, that can be the difference between whether you're still connected or not. And unfortunately we've seen cases where the lack of investment, lack of wanting to understand, we lose the kids when they're of age, and I don't want to see that happen. And losing kids, if somebody wants to leave home at 18 and finish uni in good terms, there may be disagreements, but it's on good terms and you still have that compassion and love, great. But when it's, I'm leaving because I actually don't want to be here anymore, we've seen those, and that's very sad to see. So invest in our children, understand the curriculum, understand the system. Yes, we're here, but that's not enough. We've got to, understand the dynamics that our children are facing. So very quickly, because I don't have much more time. So we've kind of covered this. So family harm can be physical, sexual, or psychological. Nobody has the right to assault another person. We've talked about that. It's not okay to smack or hit your children. Learn other ways. So discipline through violence is not acceptable. Now, where can, let's call it violence, under what circumstances can violence be used or physical discipline be used for children? Everybody's too scared now. Yep. Absolutely. There is, so one example I have is, for example, you've got a 7-year-old who's running around and he's going to cross that motorway or that road. And if you use physical force to stop him, whether it's pull him, obviously within reason, trip him up to save his life or her life, I think that's acceptable. Or if the kid's going to put their, they've got they're having dinner and they get their fork or knife and they try to put it through the wall socket, and you slap the hand to get rid of that fork out of their hand, I think that's pretty appropriate. That's okay. So that's not in retaliation. So that's very different from the kids playing with their fork and they're throwing food around, stop it, or I'll hit you, stop it, and then they don't do as I say, I smack it. So that's not preventing life or death, that's basically revenge. So that's the difference, I think. So as Judah said, there's no real appropriate time to use physical discipline unless it's life or death. Use intimidation and threats. So we all know the difference between physical. So now we're going to change tack. Judah is my partner. We live together. I'm sorry. So Judah he's a lovely. He's lovely at making dinner, right?
He does the dishes. He's great at dishes.
Good. We'll use that example. Okay. I get home, and Judah hasn't done the dishes and hasn't made me a meal. And I come home and go, "Where's my dinner?" He makes, a couple of excuses, and I'll go, give me my bloody dinner, and I smack him. Pretty simple family harm violence, yeah? Physical violence. Second example, which we see, which is in that grey area, harder to prove, but we're aware of, is, hey Judah, where's my dinner? And Judah made the same excuses, and I don't know, I'm going to go, listen, if you don't make my dinner in the next half an hour, I'm going to hurt you, and I'll walk away. So I've intimidated him. So for us, that qualifies as an offence. You've committed a crime by doing that. And the person has to believe, also, the recipient has to believe, actually, if I didn't make that food, I would be punished or hurt. So if we have evidence that it was said, and we have evidence that they believe they're in harm's way, then it qualifies. Okay, so just because some people think, I have to have hit somebody for it to become family harm. Now, again, family harm is not colour-based or rank-based or socio-economically based. It is prevalent in every community. Whether you're Pākehā, black, brown, yellow, rich, poor, we see this across the table, and our stats are staggering. I was quite surprised at what the stats tell us in terms of family harm in New Zealand. I think per capita New Zealand is one of the worst when it comes to family harm stats in the OECD. So in all the Western countries that have stats that are kind of reliable, we're one of the worst, and we'll see that very shortly. So self-defense, you may use reasonable force to defend yourself. That applies in most situations. I'm not going to go into that, that's not a topic of discussion, but that is a very nuanced space as well. Crimes Act, Section 961, I think Section 42, defend yourself or another. Yeah, that's a whole other topic. But generally speaking, you can use reasonable and proportionate force to defend yourself. Cycle of abuse, we're not going to go into this. I think a lot of us know. Same old story, the crime happens, the incident happens, there's a lot of shock in their minds. Usually, family harm is still skewed against the men, as in men are more likely to be perpetrators. So usual story, generic story, woman wants to leave, incident happens, here's the opportunity for us to intervene. She goes, no, that's it, I'm going. After a week, she sort of changes her mind, he says all the right things, buys her flowers, because Junior's just got so much charisma. He buys her heart back, she comes back, and it's good for a month, and then it's very sorry, it was right there. We were just making this up.
She knows.
And then, the cycle happens again. So he's all good, he's lovey-dovey, they go to dinner, do A, B, and C, and then the temper comes back, the violence comes back, and it's a vicious cycle. We all know somebody who's in there, and it's a very sad place, because there's the fog, And yeah, we try, not only as police, as friends and family, we try our best to help that person see reality that is present. You can't always see we're in what we call a fog of war, because there's so much going on. And yeah, it is sad trying to help people get out of that, or at least see it clearly. So again, as I said, New Zealand is ranked one of the worst. It is estimated, it's underreporting. 33% is estimated that family harm cases are actually reported. So how much more is there happening? A lot more than we know of. Now, when it comes to groupings, so if we group, from memory, if we group into like European, New Zealanders, Maori, Pacific, and us, ethnic, everybody else. Ethnic are actually, per capita, per population, we're underrepresented in family harm. But that doesn't mean it's not happening. It just means there's less likely for us to call police. In the Māori space, overrepresentation, highly represented, Pacific also represented, European kind of on par. Now we can't then make a conclusion and say this community must be worse at this. A lot of it comes down to the way we, record the stats, but also underreporting plays a big pivotal role in what we end up seeing. Nationally, on average, police attend a family harm incident every 4 minutes. 67, as we know, percent of episodes still remain unreported. Research suggests that 1 in 3, 33% of New Zealand women have experienced physical or sexual intimate partner violence in their lifetime. When it is psychological abuse is added, when psychological abuse is added, increases to 1 in 2, or roughly 55%. 1 in 8 men reported being victims of family violence, and overrepresentation in our gender diverse community. More than twice as often as others. Ethnicity, we kind of talked about this, we're not going to go into any more of it. Elder abuse is another one that we're seeing rear its ugly head. So anybody have an idea what elder abuse is? Louise?
It's abuse against the older person in your family. So we start abusing mom or dad, anyone above the age of 55, 65 is considered in that age. Some of this abuse could be financial. Abuse, control, or making decisions on behalf of the family member that you got the ability to make certain decisions, or taking their financial money out of their account without their consent.
Thanks, Louise. And just to add to that, obviously I'm talking about ethnic communities, so that is my portfolio, so to speak on that, and not to pick on certain communities, but we kind of see that sometimes manifesting in our Chinese or Indian communities, where, or any other ethnic community, where parents are brought over from country of birth, brought over to help, quote unquote, raise the kids. That's how I'm a young professional, and I've got kids, but I need to go to work. Mum and dad are sort of retired, they're at home back in China, India, or maybe in Africa. We bring them over here to look after the kids, because, you know, parents want to be around their grandchildren and it costs less. But what happens is when they get here, sometimes they become isolated, they can't speak the language, the weather isn't exactly what they bargained for, and then the children, then you have a responsibility to sort of be the guardian, because the parents, they're old, vulnerable, and then they're used and abused financially, they're isolated, and you know, they end up being in a very bad position at home, not looked after, and we've seen some of that, and that's very sad to see as well. And on the presumption of good faith and the presumption of this is my child, clearly they have my best interests at heart. Sometimes it goes astray, and that very child is now abusive of their parents, and it's gradual and it's very unclear, because again, it's not stranger v stranger. This is the family component, so can be misconstrued as well. It's my mum and dad, so I love them, and, you know, this is all normal. So just be mindful of that as well, that just because you're over a certain age and you don't speak the language, if you're living in New Zealand, you have a right to be protected from that. Or the other one is also arranged marriages, where the wife comes along, or the husband, whatever the portrait is, and there's a perception that obviously the visa-related matters are linked to the husband, and so now the husband has some control over the wife, and or potential wife, and tell her what she can and can't do. She has no money, no language, to be an independent person, so there's that natural reliance on the husband, and that gives unlimited powers, and sometimes those powers can be abused. And the general threat they've seen if it's husband v wife is, you do this and I'll cancel the visa, you'll be deported back home. So I know that Immigration New Zealand have special category visas for people who find themselves in this position where it is a marital visa, or if it is a employment visa as well. Also sometimes can be done, it's outside of the family harm scope. But I brought you here, Judah, to work to be my painter, and I'll pay you whatever I think is right. You go against me, mate, you're out. We're going back to your country, to Botswana. Well, actually now Judah has a way to protect himself. There are special category visas. If I, as an employer, am abusing you and I'm not committed to the law, for example. And lastly, sexual consent, and again another taboo topic, but we'd rather talk about it than not. Sexual consent, not saying that there's any red flags in any particular community, but sometimes we, and it pertains a lot of times to our men, and I just don't want to see this with any of our people being in trouble for this. Sexual consent is very nuanced in New Zealand, especially in the last 10 to 15 years. It is not okay to touch anyone without their consent. You know, in our cultures, there's a lot of things like hugging, kissing. You know, it doesn't matter if I know you, if I don't know you, as long as you're somehow connected. In New Zealand, sometimes it's not appropriate. So it's usually best to just sort of gauge or ask. Another one that crops up now is actually children. In our culture, traditionally, a child, you can hug them, embrace them, kiss them. It shows our affection, and usually, you know, it's done in goodwill, but there are parents who don't want that. So we've got to be very cautious. Now, in terms of the sexual side of things, consent must be obtained when people are engaging in romantic affairs or situations. And consent can be removed. So what that means is, you know, this is R18, the children, there we go. Yeah, actually, I think it's better if the little ones
Yeah,
a
can
little
you
play.
just
you know, a young person is out, I don't know, clubbing, and they meet somebody, another attractive person, and it's all happening, the conversation's going well, you know, there's romance in the air, and vibing, as they call it today, they're having a few drinks, and, you know, he's invited back to, let's use the male female example, back to the house, and, you know, everything's exciting, and, I don't know, they start kissing, making out, and stars are aligning, and then things progress, and then the female says no, or shows in actions that she's no longer interested. Now, that means consent has been withdrawn. So consent was probably given, implied consent up until that point, but you can't force, or it doesn't matter how far down the process you are, consent has been removed. Anything that that person does to try and impose or force can be understood as sexual violation, or if it goes even further, it could even be rape. So if we are seeing some of these instances, look, obviously police will look at the evidence. They're going to talk to a lot of people, and it's not just because somebody said so, therefore it is. No, they will do their due diligence, but just this is, I guess, the point here is consent can be withdrawn, and easy way to think about it is don't guess the yes. Like literally, if you don't know, just ask. You know, it sort of isn't, it doesn't add to the vibe of the night, but ask, be clear, communicate both ways. And just because you've made out or you've been romantic in the past, it doesn't mean you can continue if the other person says no, or they push, or they're just reluctant. Another one is alcohol. if somebody is intoxicated and they're impaired and unable to make decisions, please render assistance to that person. Don't engage in any sexual activity, because that person was sober the next morning and understands the situation is for him, being impaired and potentially taking advantage of, that could land you in trouble. I mean, it's just morally not right anyway, but we're talking about the law here. So please, if there's alcohol involved and you know that you are not well, they're not well, just do the right thing, render assistance, and just be the person who helps them. Have another person, because not let it be your word against theirs. Have a third person to say, hey, can you help me out here? Can we get this person a taxi? Can you come and sleep over the night? Protect yourself, protect others. And it can get really messy. Look, I'm not here to talk about all the scenarios, but these are just the general principles. That is it for my presentation, team. Again, the take-home message is we are in Aotearoa, New Zealand. There are laws that may be contrary to some of the things that we are used to. The challenge is on us. How do we, as parents, as lovers, as members of society, how do we find the best solutions or ways of being that means that we as a family unit are close, loving, and connected? I don't have the answers as a police officer, but that's why we have Judah, we have the council, who are the experts in navigating these cultural challenges and opportunities that we find in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Thank you so much, and I know that's a very heavy and ugly topic. I've got to talk about it.
Any questions for Phil? Anyone
Yes.
question for Phil?
If you find the elders being abused by the younger, what will you do? And you're not a family member of that person.
Good. Good question. The question was, if you are aware of elder abuse occurring, what should you do? Look, there's a range of different things you can do. Depends on your relationship to the family or the person who's committing the elder abuse. Sometimes early intervention by yourself, if you have the mana to see to it that this person may be missing points A, B, and C. If you think it's beyond you, then police is always an option. Police are always there, right? As a backup, call us, give us your concerns, we'll navigate it with you. Our primary objective isn't tell us everything, we don't care about you, and see you later, then we will do it. No, it's like actually, we want to work with communities. If police isn't your go-to, talk to experts in your community, someone like Louise, who's here, and this is also part of connecting people. It's not just about police, and Louise who works for Women's Refuge and helps people in the community, Judah, African Council. Talk to somebody that you trust who may be able to give you good counsel. Another way is if you don't want to be known, you want nothing to do with it, but you're aware of it, it's a neighbour or a friend or community, you can call Crime Stoppers, which is 0800 Crime Stoppers, which is an organisation that receives such calls. They don't ask who you are, what your details are, they just want to know what you know. They then triage that call for concern, and they'll advise police, hey, at this location, this is happening. What that does for you is, generally speaking, it keeps you away. So completely private and confidential. We don't need to know who you are, we just need to know what's going on, and we'll intervene. So yeah, I think doing something is better than nothing. It doesn't always mean police straight away. It could just mean talking to a trusted community leader. It could be a local priest, local imam, someone that may or Citizens Advice Bureau, a lot of agencies can help. You have a question? Oh, sorry, yes, you do have a question.
You get a question?
Yes, I don't know who's this one.
Or just speak on it.
I want this kind of book. I can use, I can talk with.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
What the brother says is true. My name is Abdul Hassan. I'm from Somalia. I come here 1998. I make a lot of trouble because I don't speak language, but I come from. The root here is what I come from is different root, different society. I grew up on refugee. My mom and my dad always fight on my country. And after refugee broken my country in 1991, we walked to Somalia to come Kenya for 6 months. I'm thinking only fight in my brain, and I don't know the secret because I can't speak English here. And what happened here, the law here and the law in my country totally different. And you know, if you not speak English now, by then 1998, up to now, I've become comfortable now because unless I speak English a little bit. By then, I don't speak English, only I know I want to fight the police, I fight the people. The people coming translate for me, I can't trust. Because how to trust? If you not speak English, you think you're nothing. Because English is like key. You open the door, you need a key. If you not speak English, nothing there. So unless I speak English now, I become so poor, I can speak. Well, it's not good, but still I'm better than 1998. I wish the police community here and this hall is full, I can speak. This country is like sea. You know the big sea, you throw the sea in the ball go everywhere. This is refugee. You don't speak English, the Israel government will give you house to go ahead your life, but you don't speak English. You don't know how to start. He give you money, yes, he give you benefit, give you everything, but the money is not talk to you. Money is not speaking English. You need somebody around you. Even the Kiwi take your hand, show you buy food, this food. You need your own language. You feel like bush in the ground. You feel like nothing. You feel like why am you? Even in society, you feel like, look at me, I've been here 25 years, I'm not changed. Because I'm not speaking English, I don't know what New Zealand look like. I come in 1998, 29 years, I live in 99. I don't know what this look like. I come 29 years, still I'm not speaking English, still I'm not writing, still I'm refugee ground in my brain. Still I live here 29 years, still my brain is refugee, still I'm from China. So what you do in here, is good to help in refugees. I think we need women to help each other. Because a lot of women like me is still container. Especially in this country, becoming single woman is very hard. Single women have 2 children, the people in the food, drinking alcohol, drug, is single woman kids. The man, because why? The man in this country, man and husband, he help each other, the kids together grown up laugh. Grown up laugh, mother, her husband laugh the son, the lady, the laugh, children grown up for laugh. But if you're a single woman, only one hand, you have only one life. Because the boy, he need a father. The girl, he need a mother. But you have single woman, you have 4 boys, you can handle it. Other 3 boys going to jail, or 1 boy surviving, or other die. This is problem in this country. And what happened because, like me now, I have 2 boys. I have a very hard life. This is why I get depression tablets, anxiety tablets. I took counseling for 5 years because I can't speak English. I've been to police cell for many times, 5 times a day. Last year, 1998, I go police cell for 5 times a day. I go caught almost how many court I've been, 20 court, I don't know. Police keep taking me, keep bringing me because I can't speak English. I fight for police, I fight everybody because what I have in my house is killing me inside. The boy told me, I told my boy go outside, I said come back. And go to Kiwi, come back. And I can't speak English. And holding my boy, and other boy holding my son, and I say, Fighting, my boy come back, I can't speak English. My boy writing the friend, internet, I can't read English. What is communicating is, I'm inside the home, but nothing. My boy, he say, I'm going to shopping, but communicating is friend or outside. I look the phone, look at me, I can't read English. My son tells me, hey, but I can't read. This is problem. We are refugee here. We are our problem. Even the women, the men, problem. A lot of children, refugee, have a criminal record. This is very sad. Very, very sad. You come from Africa, you have raised the children, you be the refugee, you don't have food. Here we have 3 times the food. My country, before my mom died, we have only 1 meal. I bring wood from upper here to come here to sell $1 a day. Selling the food $1 a day. My sister bring water, he's selling the water. My father is going to helping people building the house like this $1. Maybe my father and me and my sister, maybe we bring $3 a day. $3 a day, we're going to have a sukkah, we're going to have savarlina, no milk, no anything. No shoes, no clothes, anything, I bring. Sometimes I help me, like for example, somebody's house, cleaning, he gives me maybe $1, or less than $1, maybe he gives me food. Here, we have a life, we have a house, we have a money, but psychology killing us. Money is nothing. Life is more better than money, and house is better than life. Life is better. If you feel comfortable, feel great, you speak English, you make money. You make money, you make house, but you're not killing inside. You have dirty, you have this devil, broken back. You can wash your face, but you can't wash the heart. You walking, but you carry heavy, but you don't know how you take heavy. You speak to who? Only you speak in your language after you benefit, you sit in benefit killing you. You give me $500, it's killing you, but if you work your own hand, make it $1, make it comfortable for you, but somebody else feeds you, you feel like nothing. You feel like where I am, somebody feeds me, but I'm nothing. But if you work yourself, you feel comfortable. This is myself. I feel very, very, very sad. Women like me have a children and have kids sitting on the ground, drinking alcohol in the chair. Last week, my friend came to me. She has only 3 boys. Her 2 sons in prison. She has only 1 boy. Me and this lady, we've been to refugee camp, Kapuma. We sell in UNHCR food. This lady, we have nothing, even me. We come here for life. We come here to get something. We don't come here to lose something. It's very sad. Very, very sad. Thank you. I feel very sad. I feel very sad when you see women like me. Very sad. Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie, for giving us your kōrero. It's deeply touching. It's very hard to hear, just the realities that some of our communities come from. But what I did take out of that is your resilience. As hard as life has been for you and your family, I think you make some very valid points, and that is English language, opening up those doors for opportunity, unlocking the potential through English, through language, and also the hand up rather than the hand out. Because I agree with you, yes, we come here, we're given, we rebuild our lives, but how do we rebuild it? Physically rebuilding is one thing, but psychological rebuilding is the most hardest one. I mean, I can relate to the invasion of Iraq. For politics, the rebuilding of Iraq after Saddam was toppled, and the Western Allies focused solely on rebuilding infrastructure, which is good. But actually, how do you build a generation born into war, born into poverty, born into sectarianism? There's no quick answers, and I do empathise, and that is part of the kōrero that I have. It's not so much our parents, like yourself, who's sacrificed everything, literally everything at home. 6 months going from here to there, refugee camps. You didn't only do it for you did it for your children to have a better life. And this is where we see sometimes, not always, sometimes the sad reality of, because we haven't grappled with what it means to be in New Zealand, there's a missed opportunity for our children to really do the best they can. The opportunities that were denied to you and my parents, we want those opportunities to open for our children. And I think that's why we have the likes of the African Community Council. And one meeting or challenge I have is, speaking out of turn here, but we invest a lot in events, which is great, celebratory events, commemoration events, community events, and I love that. One thing we want to do and partner with African Community Council is that young person. If we can help that one young person who doesn't have a sense of identity and has made the wrong friends, has made the wrong choices, and now he's 5 years deep into whatever, or she, into whatever it is for me, and I'm talking out of turn here, but if that money was invested and if we could just somehow turn that young person's life around, for me that's worth every single event. You know what I mean? So I'd love to work with you more. I'm not the expert. Like this auntie said, we may have some keys that can open some doors, but we need to really address these real issues that keep us awake at night. Thank you for your vulnerability. Really appreciate it, and that's something I'll take back. And that's something that we need to hear. So I'd love to invite you in due course to maybe a police corporal training event. Actually, we have an internal support network who we coming up, but I'll have a chat if I could through the organisers, because we need to hear these stories, because it's easier for us to have a slideshow. The law is black and white, and then your experiences shape a human reality to the law, and that's what we need. Is we need that reality to know that actually, yes, we're officers, we're enforcement officers, but actually there's a human side to every interaction. Thank you, Auntie.
Thank you so much, Phil. Anyone else with a question? For Phil?
Well, are you working just with refugees or just for all New Zealanders?
So, as a police officer, obviously I have a role to work with everyone. In my actual role, which is ethnic senior advisor, my BAU, my business, normal business, is working to build relationships with our ethnic communities. So that's not just the refugee is one element or one segment of the ethnic community. Ethnic is, the way we define it, is anybody who does not identify as Pākehā, as a European, Māori, or Pacific Islander. So our portfolio is very big. So it's the Middle East, Asia, Africa, South America. So we deal with migrants, international students, refugees, a whole plethora of different communities.
Yeah, because while I asked you for that one, I saw a lot of things, and I see that some of the family members here in New Zealand, they are refugees. They're losing their families. They're losing children. I myself, I grew up in the tough way that I cannot even say, because if I try to say now, put me deep and give me 2 months and give me depression that I can't even get out quickly. But I myself, I like to advise you that if you have child, please can you come to Somalia community and South Sudanese community. They are breaking down in this African community. So I say, and somebody is going to help me later, I don't mind, but I need help. Because I see young youth are losing this up. The women like me, the young, that they can do something for the children they are losing, and they end to the violence later, end to the depression, they don't know what they're doing, and the children, they are breaking apart. If I stand up now and try to explain what happened to me, since I come in New Zealand, I will say, oh, since I live in New Zealand, I'm nothing in New Zealand, because I don't see New Zealand that is in New Zealand that, because I've have a lot of things everywhere. Sometimes I say, maybe it's in my life. Before that, I want you to come and hear what is going on in my community. Please.
Again, thank you for your contribution. I'm always touched by these raw stories, just so I set the expectations right, because I love to just be frank and honest. I don't think police will have a solution for intricacies. Where we are good is when we rely on our partner agencies, so like Judah and the team. So while I would love to attend, again, I can't attend on my own pleasure. There has to be a willingness from the community, an invite of sorts. I know that the uniform can mean different things to other communities, especially some of our young, vulnerable refugee communities. There is a perception that we are the bad guys, and I completely understand why that is. So sometimes, respectfully I say this, the uniform in some cases serves to close doors rather than open doors. So what I can say is, again, there's me and Johnny covering the Wellington region, so we're very limited resources, but with capable partners who hold the money, they hold the keys, they hold some very small funding, and they hold the cultural competency. If we work alongside the likes of yourselves, the multicultural councils, and your religious or faith leaders, if they have a role to play, I think together we could maybe at least start to acknowledge some of these problems, if not address them. I think the notion of me turning up as a police officer, while it has some validity and it has some positivity in that, I think it wouldn't really address some of the issues. I think we need to sit down with yourselves, with our partner agencies. At the end of the day, they are the experts. We're there to just inform and link people in. But I think if we had a multifaceted sit down together, what are the issues? First we've got to identify what they are, who they pertain to, and where it's happening, we may have a better handle on creating some kind of prevention initiative. Because remember, the other thing I find is when something goes bad in our community, as humans, we tend to make that the thing. And sometimes we lose the focus on all the positive things. So I've seen a lot of university students that are flying high with great, results, some getting into all sorts of industries. So a lot of our refugee communities are doing really well. At the same time, there is a small group who are struggling. So let us keep a broad view that actually, generally speaking, refugees, relative to what they've experienced, relative to the mishaps that have happened in their life, we're doing incredibly bloody good, if you ask me. But that's not to say that in certain pockets, there are also some challenges and failures. So let's get together, let's have a chat offline. I'll let sort of Judah and the team know how to culturally navigate this the best, and I'll be there. You just tell me the place and time, I'll be there, and I'll do whatever I can with my power.
Thanks, Phil. As Phil just said, I think these issues together. So let's find time, let's talk and see how we can best support our young ones and our families. So thank you so much for your contribution. Anyone else want something? Any question? Otherwise, I'll pass it to Fred.
Yes, let's get up to Phil. Let's clap for Phil. So as you know, we are already running behind time. So we're going to break for lunch, and after lunch we'll reconvene here. So it's now exactly 1:30, and already we've eaten into Louis's time because obviously we didn't start on time. But we were going to track along. So we're going to have lunch and return at 2 p.m. So once even if you've not finished eating, just come around with your food. We are happy for you to have your food whilst Louis starts introducing her session, and then we can have that breakout. And just so you know, we have some African food and products. So the food that you're going to eat is at the back there. But then African food and products that you can buy, take home and go and cook thereafter. Mrs. Boama here has them. And whilst you are eating, she'll be putting them on the tables over there. So do go there. She has very good prices. Just talk to her and she'll tell you. If you are wondering what type of stuff that she has a lot, so I will not speak to it. Once you get there, you see them on the table. She will talk to you nicely, and you can strike a deal. This is like African market, so just go there and then you give me a deal. And the deal is the price. That's it. Yeah, so thank you all for coming. Let's break for lunch. The food is East African. I'm sorry, did I say East African food? Yes, East African food, Ethiopian food. We have injera, we have rice, there's chicken, there's lamb, there's salad, and then there are some drinks there. Please help yourself. I'll also come around to help just open up and then we start eating. Yeah, let's say a word of prayer even as we break to have our lunch. Our Lord and Master Jesus, we thank you for the food and the time like this. Even as we break for this food, we pray that the food will give us nourishment. We bless the hands that have prepared it, and we pray that it will give us more strength to continue the discussion. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, we pray with thanksgiving. Amen and amen. Let's have some time. Spider. You want to spider? And it's also order lentils. Yes. And so you are covered. It's good. You are covered. And it's also allowed. So Phil, I don't know if Phil is Muslim. He's Christian. Yeah, he did send me a text and said, oh, he met somebody in church. So I was like, or then I said, you know. So yes, please help me. Yes, please. I don't know whether you're bringing the right to go local.
Brother, how are you? Yeah, Oh, nice. So my picture is that. Because you came to the film for the volunteers, the film that they played. Yeah, you couldn't make it. Yeah, Tuesday evening. Wow. Yeah. She's got a lot of stuff. Yeah. Some people yeah. Hello. Hi, how are you? Did you get another bottle? Yeah. I thought you won before.
Very good daughter? Oh, yeah. When she was young, I don't know, there's some similarities. Yes, oh, yeah.
You know what happened? I said, what's wrong with you? 2 times. I said, what you doing? Yeah. Same thing last time. That's what she did. I said, what you doing? This one, you not- I said, what you doing? He said, I put Japan. I said, I'm not asking you to chop off. What you doing? I said, come on. What you selling?
It's African foreigners.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This one is palm oil.
No, I have Bugatti. I have base meal.
Palm oil, right?
Yes, please. Palm oil. Yes. Palm oil.
Come with you. Yes.
How much is that palm oil?
$15. Yeah, it's palm oil.
Really nice. That's a minute.
No palm oil.
No, I know.
I have a friend from Congo. That's why I gave him a house.
Do you go to a Lady of Grace?
West Africa.
Turn around, because I think I sent you're the one who has your 2 daughters.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my wife and the boy.
Yes, we're the ones who stand behind you, me and Haley. Eric.
Yes, I am.
Wow, because I only know you from obviously
From the back,
From
yeah.
the back, familiar. Oh wow. Sometimes you read the.
Bible, the readings, and sometimes I do the astrology. Issuing the community. And I've also done the leader.
Yeah, it's very nice
Who
fish.
reads before. Yes. I've seen that. So Diana, you see Diana and me and the kids.
Yes, it's something that your voice is so cute. I
Yeah,
see you going
yeah.
with the,
Yeah.
you know, when the kids go do
Yeah.
that.
So
Diana, I'm Phil. Yes. No, in church.
you saw me talk.
Here?
Yeah.
No, here, I've seen him at the other program that we
Okay.
had, Wellington Church.
So would you probably, outside of the house, and find you guys?
And then during,
And
after
you're there
that,
with your 2 daughters and your son?
Yeah.
and then when we say extend peace, we thank
Thank
each other.
Small world, right?
It is true, yeah.
And you know the only way, Eric, the only way I knew Eric was because I only see the back.
The back.
I said, "That what a way to identify.
I know.
Oh, wow.
I've seen the back before.
And then
Oh, you with me?
Done.
Is it done?
he said to me, yeah.
Done with the wife.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. So also, he met me at the Saturday.
Yeah.
He knew me, I didn't know.
Hey.
You don't want to. We're going to resume. Okay, that's good. Got you.
That's my
Presentation. Wallace. 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 Really more can I hear? I'm a little hot. But I have to also buy
Just to support you guys.
Thank you.
No worries.
Hello. Hi. If we can please start making our way back. It's exactly 3 p.m. Oh, sorry, 2 p.m. We want to start before we are behind time.
Let me know how it feels.
Hello. Hello. Can we please start making our way back to our seats? We want to continue the program because we are far behind time. We have already eaten into Louis's time, so yes. And there's still a lot of car at the back there, so you can. So if you want to start a second right now, do it whilst you are sitting here, and then when we close, you can also carry sample if you want to. Thank you. So I'm going to give this time to Louis. I know there are a couple of people finishing up, but I'm just quickly going to introduce Louis to come and speak to us. So, Louis is the manager at Kapiti Women's Center and Women's Refuge in Kapiti. She has more than 12 years of experience as a counselor. And just so you know, she also has a medical background. And so she's the right person. She's a member of our community. She sees different groups of people, obviously classified as ethnic communities and other groups because of the nature of their work. She will give a short presentation and then go into a bit of facilitation in terms of discussions on the matter. And so I will not waste that much time. Louis, if you can please take it away. Thank you.
Kia ora. Thank you for the invitation to come and speak to the group. Thank you for your presentation, Phil. It's really good to hear the work you're doing, and I just want to acknowledge the auntie that spoke at the end, touching story. And quite informing in terms of what we need to do to ensure that the right support is available for people that need it when they need it. My name is Louise. I'm a mother of 3 children. currently maturing in New Zealand. That's my intro. My background is in nursing. I'm a pediatric nurse and did that for over 10 years while also training as a counsellor. I work with families. Majority of the time, women who have experienced difficult birth or going through separation, as well as supporting the men that have gone through separation. So I work with children in terms of pediatric nursing, as well as working with women and men in our community. I currently manage the Women's Centre, and that's situated in Kapiti Coast, and it's a space for women to come and you don't have to have a particular issue. There's a range of service offering there at the Women's Centre. We also cover the Women's Refuge service, so family violence prevention or response for Kapiti Coast area. That's my role. I also sit at the national governance table looking at the wider prevention of family violence in New Zealand. And when I heard you speak about your experience as a refugee and comparing it to being in New Zealand and still being in the sea and still rocking and not knowing your ways around because of the language. And I sat there and I thought, well, what difference can I make at the national level in terms of what our migrant and refugee communities coming in? So that's something that I'm going to take away and look at what can we do. So I'm not just looking at Kapiti Coast, but looking at a wider, nationwide in terms of support. Because my role, I represent the Lower North region in terms of looking at prevention for Lower North region around family violence. Because the goal is to try and talk ourselves out of the job. If we can eliminate family violence in New Zealand, that would be fantastic. And if we can support those coming in with different life stresses, that could make a huge difference in their lives as well. And the youth. I'm very big on prevention, and the youth comes up a lot when I'm giving this talk. And it starts with them. We need to start with them in terms of putting the right support in place so they can learn the best tools and strategies to help themselves as they journey through life. So we are running behind time. I'm going to change my program quite a bit. And Phil, thank you. You covered a lot of some of my slides. So, and I would allow a lot more time for the interaction. I think that would be where is needed the most. We've spent a few hours already with each other, so I'm going to skip the icebreaker already, chop that off. Or not. Those of you in the room, what are you hoping to get out of today? I've probably got about 45 minutes of that. What are you hoping to get out of that time together?
Peace.
Peace, yes. Yeah. I would hope that by the time you leave here, you'll be filled with peace and tools and ways to ensure that stays with you for a long time.
Amen.
Amen.
Probably for me, maybe some kind of ideas or tools to be able to support others.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Tools and ideas to support others.
What family violence and social violence entails,
Yeah.
and the agents or the things that can help to minimize it or manage it.
Yeah.
Mine would be, I think, growing up outside New Zealand and watching kids grow, just like what Phil covered, what I've observed is that, children here, they are very good negotiators. They know how to sort of talk their way out of, but growing up outside New Zealand, I'm not used to that. I'm just used to taking instruction. Do this, stop, So it's very difficult for me sometimes to be able to walk within and navigate, bringing up kids here. Yeah.
Absolutely. Looking in the room, probably all of us, or at least 99% of us, would have grown up with, parents speak, we listen, and we do with no question. There's no why. How come? You just do it because you've been told to do it. That's it. There's no negotiation. But we are in New Zealand where kids are encouraged to ask questions, challenge their parents.
Sorry, Lisa, to interrupt your train of thought. One of the things I wanted to see, and it may not be part of your kaupapa, is the role of faith in the bonds or the social cohesion of the family unit. Because I know a lot of our ethnic communities, faith, whether it's an organised religion or spirituality, gives us a model that then gives us a model for the family unit. And we take God out of the equation. I'm saying it's out of uniform, not a uniform. We take God out of the equation. I find we fill that void with other persuasions that aren't always the most effective for the structure of the family. Not to be old school in 1950s, wife stays at home and does all the cooking, but there must be some research that shows when faith is taken out of the equation in society as general, let alone the family unit, there has to be a replacement. What are we replacing that concept of God with, especially pertaining not so much to the Western families, even though that's been affected as us as ethnics, migrants, refugees. That is a big part, a pillar that we're losing.
My one is like broken pieces. If you have broken pieces, we have to come together and group together, then we grow us together. This is my idea. Because in the moment, all of someone us, especially me, we have a broken piece in the house. So we have to glue together and grow up together. Yeah, this is my idea.
The definition of so Phil has already covered this. We're gonna, it's already covered this. I'm gonna skip through that. And the definition of sexual violence. The organization I work for, Women's Refuge, we're there to support women and children. There are some other refuge that support men as well, but not in the Wellington area. So the way we support men in the Wellington area would be, if a man rings our crisis line, we would, I would give him the same information I would give a woman in terms of where he would access the support he needs. We would not pick him on as a client because we're working with women and children, but we'll give that information because it costs me nothing to give that person that information, and then he can go and get the help he needs. But our role, and we take family violence seriously in terms of, just like Phil talked about, if we get a call through our crisis line, our role is not to judge, that woman. Our role is to listen. We listen to her, we're guided by her in terms of what she's wanting and needing from us. And a lot of the time, they will bypass police, they will come straight to Women's Refuge. But some of the time we get a report from police, family harm part of the police service. And then we ring that woman. When we ring that woman, we introduce ourselves and let them know who we are and how we can support them. By supporting her, I do believe that supporting her, that support is being extended to the partner, because depending on what steps she takes, that partner then is required to take some programs or do some stuff for himself or get connected with other services that he also needs. Where I would like to say, because I am of African origin, and I know that a lot of our people don't reach out for help. So when I see a woman of ethnic background or a person of ethnic background reach out for help, that speaks volumes to me. That says to me things have been going on for potentially a long time before she reached out for help. So I take those cases very seriously, and when I sit on the table when we're looking at police report and strategizing in terms of what support we can give that family, and if the comment says it's the first time we've received the family report, kind of minimizing or making it like it's low level, I actually bring in the cultural side of things. For that person to have rang the police, for that child to have rang the police, things must be really bad. Let's get in there and help, because I know it takes a lot for our community to make triple one and actually that's police. So when that happens, I take it seriously, and I also tell my team to take it seriously. And we're not here to separate families. We're here to provide that support early on where possible. It could be mum needs counselling, it could be a child needs counselling, it could be the whole family needs some kind of therapy, it could be support accessing other services. They may not need women's refuge per se, but they need that connection in terms of what support is there in their community. So I get comments sometimes from other people saying, well, women's refuge, you take the wife away, you take the mum away, then what? We're here to provide the information to the woman, we're not here to separate the family. So I'm mindful of your comments in terms of what you're wanting to get out of today, but what are some of the forms of family violence? How do they present themselves? And Phil's touched on that earlier. I just wanted to check what some of the, financial, spiritual, verbal abuse, physical, sexual, emotional. So my next slide covers quite a lot of the breakdown of the different emotional, abuse in detail. What was your question? What would you want to get out of it?
To get some tools to be able to support others.
Yes. So what's some of the tools you think you need to be able to support others?
How to approach, say someone comes to you and they're distressed about an issue that's affecting their life, and how to approach it in a way that they don't feel judged. I don't come across like I'm judging them. Just the tools, the tools to talk to people in a way that is supportive rather than invasive.
Yes. So the way I would approach this would be, the first thing you could do is listen to that person. And listen with intention to support rather than to judge. Listen to what it is they're saying to you, and from there then you'll be able to figure out what they've tried, because they will tell you what they've tried, how long it's been going for. And then once you've listened and you feel they've shared what they need to share, ask them, what do you need from me? They might not know, I don't know. Or they might tell you, I need you to help me, I'm not sure where to go. So then that's where you tap into other agencies that you're aware of. I'll have the list at the end in terms of who's available to support. So we've got the Women's Refuge, it's nationwide. There's 2 in Wellington, there's 2 in Porora, there was 2 in Porora, there's 1 in Porora, there is 1 in Kapiti and Palmerston North and so on. So first thing is listening to that person and being there for them. Now it can get exhausting because, as Phil talked about, a couple have an argument. When you look at the cycle of abuse, a couple have an argument, then they're remorseful. The person that was being aggressive will go through that remorseful stage, and then things are starting to work out again, and then you go again. So you might be that person that's listening to that friend over and over. It's the same. It sounds to you like it's the same thing over and over, but in their reality, it could be the same but slightly different. So just being there, being patient. But if you're the support person, ensuring you're getting support for yourself as well, because it can get quite taxing emotionally and us as the support people. So making sure you're okay. At the end of the day, it's their decision to do something about that relationship, whether they're going to stick at it and work at it, or whether they're going to leave. And that's with Women's Refuge, we see quite a few families coming through, and there's still no judgment. We support that woman because that's her journey. It takes about 7 attempts for someone, statistically, for someone to actually leave an abusive relationship. And that 7 attempts, it might not be 7 in 1 year, it could be a few years that's gone by, but each time we come in, we're intervening, we're providing information on needed support. If and when she chooses to go back to that relationship, that's her decision. She's an adult, but we let her know we're here. So listening to that person, asking them what they need from you, and then providing them with the resources and things that they might not trust in terms of, is it ringing the police? Is it contacting Women's Refuge Service? Is it contacting men's support group? Is it contacting other agencies or community agencies that person will feel comfortable? And realizing that information is privilege, so containing it without spreading it out to the wider community. Because once you do that and they find that, they lose trust in you and then they become isolated. The worst thing we could do is isolate someone in that space because they never know to reach out to you. And that's one of my biggest lies. So we isolation, yes. That's a real issue in terms of the family violence space, when someone has got no support system in terms of who to reach out to have that conversation, to have interaction, to have a ability to bounce off ideas. Abuse could get worse and worse and worse because they've got, like Phil mentioned, when the children bring their elder parents here and then they're isolated and there's no one to talk to. That can be worse. In terms of the question from Wallace about children here, yes, I still remember my upbringing. I remember I didn't question anything that my parents said, and I've got 3 kids here, 1 born in the UK, 2 born here. And the challenges, how do you manage that is touching with what Phil said, sometimes it might not be that TikTok that last week that happened, it might not be the party they went to a while ago, it could be right from the beginning. So just be mindful that it's a different environment that they're growing in here, and they will ask questions, and it's actually good that they're asking us questions. I wish my parents allowed me to ask more questions when I was growing up, rather than being instructed to do something. So flipping that and seeing it as a positive thing, and actually the more interaction we have with our children, that information elsewhere that might not be the correct information for them. So using that questioning as an opportunity to actually introduce, embed, and enhance the cultural side of heritage of where they're from, who we are, and also having that balance around the environment that they're growing in. And by doing that, then you get to know where they're at and hopefully prevent things escalating. So I like to see that as a positive. Flip it. Kids will test us, but once you flip your mindset into, okay, I can't show love by fear and intimidation or threats, like if you keep doing that, I'm going to call the police, wait till your father comes home or whatever. Actually using it as a way of finding out more about where they're at, and using that opportunity to inject a lot of our culture and richness into that conversation, because otherwise they will go out there and it's a lot more risky out there. So
I think it's, I'll try and speak loudly. I think it's really important when your children come to you with stuff, and they can do it from such a young age, that you don't react to things like, like say your 10-year-old came and said, oh, someone offered me marijuana or something, I don't know, but it's like unlikely. But it's how you react, I think, because it causes a trusting relationship. If you don't overreact, like I have, they're going to trust you, and they're going to feel that they can come to you with other issues as well. So you can create those really safe spaces for them in the home. It's just, sometimes just got to bite your tongue and and then go and cry about it later. But yeah, I think that's what, like growing up, my parents were very, very strict. We got spanked with a leather strap. It was all fun and games. And I've tried really hard to not give my children that same experience. And that they can feel like they can come talk to me about stuff. So I've tried hard to be open, which also comes with that, I think, this new age of children being fiercely independent and autonomous about who they are, and they know who they are, which can be quite confronting, I think, for people who have been brought up quite differently. It's, I find it a challenge.
That's really good point. Thank you for sharing that.
And I also think we the parents should be friends with our kids. Like sometimes you need to even come to their level, act like them, and see. They can bring out all that is going, whatever is happening in their school, they will tell you. And maybe learn one or two their job and just tell them like you are convinced and you say, oh, so you know this, then it brings up the conversation that has happened backwards to you, then you know what is really happening. So being friends with your kids and not to shout them off. As Aunt said, like you have to just sometimes when they tell you stuff, you shouldn't react. Although in you have to be like, this is not, but you don't just say straight out. You continue, okay, so then what happened? Yeah, so what did you do? That kind, it brings out everything. But when they start, hey, did you do this? Okay, they have to contain the rest in me. So being friends with your kids also helps you. In instilling your...
Can you join the police?
Detective, I know, that's the program, but I like the program.
Just add what Diana said, in terms of being friends with them, I think what works more is not to react in the moment. So if something happens now and you think it's very hard or
Yeah.
You can leave it. Sometimes what works for me, I can wait for 3 days. Then I come and ask, the day this happened, you said this. Why? What happened? Then I see that the conversation, they are very free and relaxed because they know it is not the time it happened, and they can come out and see everything. And what I found working for my family is we have 3 kids, and I settled Papa's time with you. So you choose any one of them, like Starbucks. So we can drive from Upper Hutt to Wellington City Center. She buys a Starbucks, we sit down, and then we talk. And another person likes, I just want to go to the mall. Just with Papa, we go to the mall, and during that time, I learned everything from the other two. And then I also learned stuff about me they didn't like. You see, because they feel stuff about mom they don't like, because that time they think we are friends and they can say everything because you have said we can have time, and then they are free to say anything they want. And I will not be judgmental, just having fun. But then I record everything and then know what to do next. And what I found helps is when they go to school and stuff happens, they don't feel shy coming to share, and they tell me what they think about that issue.
Yes.
And they use that as an opportunity. How does it relate to our belief? And it is my opportunity to shape them in that moment rather than worrying about what the school will do to them. Once I do my part, I just don't worry because they are out and you are not there with them. So I take the opportunity to do what I can and leave them with the world, what they can do with what I've said to them.
Beautifully said. Beautifully, yeah. And having that quality time with each child, it's so beautiful. That's something I did with my kids. And the other thing I tend to do is I don't mind picking up my kids and their mates. It's in the back, right? They're talking, listening. And I'm not reacting, I'm just listening, and I make sure I don't comment with something because you don't interrupt, just listen. That's the key, because a lot of information, you get to find out a lot more about what your kids are doing, what their mates are up to, and which one of those kids friends that you need to say a lot more prayers for in terms of creating an instant, scatter, so they don't carry on with that. But yeah, spending quality time with the children, and spending that quality time with the children, and encouraging that question, because this is the environment they're in. This is all they know. We're trying to adapt as they grow and as we're journeying with them in terms of our upbringing, and it's finding that middle ground to weave what you got from your parents, but into your own parenting with the children. Yes.
Just one observation in my line of work. So I think we need to first acknowledge that parenting is hard regardless. It's not an ethnic thing. So I've talked to many different communities, rich, poor, white, brown, yellow. They all have similar, you would know from your school parents, everybody struggles. Teenage years are hard. I think where we have a point of difference is ethnic parents or ethnic communities is 90% it's universal. We have another 10% edge where we have a culture alongside the already difficult experience, and now on top of that layered that say, I'm generalizing here, that say the Pākehā doesn't have, we have now the Ghanaian language or the Nigerian language or the Syrian language and the history and the faith. And I think that's one. I think number two is the key difference I find, say from my parenting and then looking at, or just parenting that works and doesn't, is acknowledging that the child is their own entity from a young age. I know in our experiences, It was, you are nothing but a byproduct of me. You are going to be what I want you to be. I've already written the book. And that's very normal back home. I think the hardest thing for us is to, in a way, let go, which means they come to you more. So you've seen it, I look at some of my Pākehā colleagues, and they'll have a 4-year-old, little Timmy, as an example, and he's crying, and in our culture, be quiet. Little Timmy's crying, I'm like, okay, Timmy, what is it you want? And we get surprised because we're like, how much resilience and you can hold it together, and what that signifies to us is exactly that, treating little 4-year-old Timmy as not an adult, but a separate human being who has their own desires, own wishes. We've got to respect those. And if we start at that age, and I've seen it manifest, the little Timmy will feel heard. It doesn't make sense, right, for us as a 4-year-old, we just say do and they do. But actually saying, Timmy, okay, I'll give you the toy when you stop crying and you use your big words. I just find that so illuminating when I compare it to some of my community members who just go, what is he know? He's 4. Well, actually, he and she does know a lot. They're human beings. And lastly, the other thing is you can be the best parent, and I've seen this happen from very well established families, and the kids still choose wrong and end up on the side. So don't beat yourself up. As Eric pointed out, you can only do your best. You can't control and monitor your children forever. And it is just how it works. It's not always your fault. You've done your absolute best. Things can go the way he or she decides to go. So number 1, it's universal. Don't beat yourself. It's not ethnic. And number 2, you can only do what you can do.
And I think it's right, like, I'm an early childhood teacher and I'm quite fascinated with brain development. And when we're an adult, our brain is 1.4 kilos. When we're born, it's about 750 grams. By the time we're 3, it's 1.2 kilos. So there's that saying in the first 1,000 days, and that's like you're learning all the information that's telling you how to be a human in this world. So a lot of people's behaviour is coming from those first 3 years. So it's, and like, yeah, we treat children like they're their own person, which is fun sometimes. It's very stupid, but yeah,
And it is like that with couples too. If you recognize that your spouse, your husband, your wife or partner is her own person. And you know, with faith, and some cultures, we have the belief that once you come together, you are 1 + 1 is 1. I believe that. But the person grew up in a different culture, with different parents, different village, and they have decided to live the rest of their lives with you. And so if you recognize that person came from a specific context and background, and then they are coming to join you, and you respect that difference, and then it will help you to understand the oneness. Other than if you ignore that they are their person, that is where the misunderstanding and arguments and balance come. First, they are their person, then we are. So I think it's the same way the children and the spouse.
And I think it's like for me, first marriage for my country, Somalia. We have it's a Muslim culture. If you are 11 years old or 14 years old, you can marry 70 years old man. And what happened is, for example, me, my mom and my dad is very poor. We are poor, very, very poor, no land, no anything. One man, his wife died, and he have a common and sheep and other things. For my father, he want to take me this man to marry so he can, my family have food. So he get 100 sheep, 50 camels, so force me to marry this man. This man is like, I'm like 14, coming 14, 13, and I say no. And I tell my mom no, because my mom, he listened my dad, because my dad going to beat up my mom. This is Muslim culture. Women in my culture is nothing. The man is a leader. So if you say no, your mom have to listen your dad. Anything you dad say, you have to follow. So we live in a village. No, in city. We live in village. In village, you have a grass house. Grass house. So he built all the old women. He built in the house to take me night time for men. Man hold me, and I in the ground. My mom hold my leg, my dad, and push me in the ground in the house. And he say, if you say no, this man, because he gave me 50 sheep, and anything, if you say no, we beat you up. And the village, no telephone, no anything. So this man, this old man is asleep, I escape. I want to go like village like here to Auckland. I hide a tree, after I hide a tree, I see someone. Because village people moving. I see someone that like, you know the common, she have something go like this, my country. So I hear, I'm hiding, I hear, I go, because village, you know the village, I scream, and no escape, no anything, young girl, and he said to me, what you come, I speak to them. I didn't say I skip my family, otherwise he's going to return me back. So I say I lost my family, where? So what happened is, these people is like, he want to bring the water like far away, he see the rain, because village, he moved for rain, so he see the rain, might be rain other side. So these people is moving other side, so I follow, no shoes, no anything. One man, he said to me, where you family? I say, I don't know, I lost. I have a command before, I have a looking at the sheep lost, I don't know where. And he said, okay, come. I say, oh, please come, please don't tell my family, you see me. No, you don't see the family. So what happened is, I stayed this family for 2 nights. He gave me the milk. Even I can't drink milk, I feel like shaking, scared. I say, maybe if my brothers find me, or that family is going to kill me. I escape. My family live in Ethiopia. Then I come Kenya. These people, they say my family, he live in Kenya. I lie at them. Then he take me Kenya. Then send the Kenya, war come in the middle. I never see my dad. This why there are a lot of women and suffer. Even from here, some of them Somali people here. He returned the girl back home. He said, you're going to see, because you're born here, you're going to see your family back home. After back home, he take passport away and marry the other girl. A lot of girls stuck there. After now, I know the family here. A lot of girls stuck there, have no way to go. Because the village, no, it's a thing. Village to village, and again, no communicating, no phone, no anything. They take away passport, they take the phone, if it's still there. This is where we have to grow up the man here. I'm very lucky to come here. I'm very, very, very lucky to come here. I'm very lucky have food even, but other hand, it's very too far away your family. You feel like lonely inside. You know, speaking anything. You feel like container. But it's safe here. Very safe, very safe. No one force you married. Yeah, but it's back home. It's very, very bad. This all my body here. My father hit me, forced me, the old man, he hit me here, blood coming, hit me and pushed me in the ground for old man. And the old man, he said, now I own you. I give you family money, I give you family sheep, you anything you say, I kill you. You scared. But luckily, sleep, I escaped. This is probably still going on in my country.
Can I just add, Louise, in some extreme cases, what Auntie is saying, very extreme cases, very rare. We still do in the OECD, especially in New Zealand, which is where our jurisdiction is, and Australia. We do still get arranged marriages.
Yes.
We do still get forced marriages. Young girls going home because it can't happen here.
Yes.
There was an example last week where one of the brothers,
Yes, I know.
about
Yes.
sometimes they take
The young people for holiday and marriage.
One of the brothers spoke up about the potential of some families who take their children back home under the guise of a holiday, or really they want to discipline them and do what they can't do here, and or, again, this is extreme, very particular cases, so I'm not generalising, or they take them back females in particular, for arranged marriages, sometimes female genital mutilation. And we know how horrible that is. So what I'm saying is, if you get any hint that a family is going overseas for any of these purposes other than a holiday, please let police know in confidence. We may have some power, if there's enough evidence to suggest that a young person is going back home for marriage, or female genital mutilation, or for discipline. There are things we can do with immigration, i.e. putting alerts, travel alerts and bans when there is enough evidence. But we are only as good as the information that provided to us. Again, extreme circumstances, we're not here to say a dob on everyone, but I think, and I qualify by saying the safety of the young person, I'm sorry, but it exceeds any cultural expectations. The safety is paramount before any culture. Culture will be considered, but if you hear of this, please let us know. We will work with that community, with that family, to do the best we can. Also, another thing that sometimes occurs is multiple marriages. In certain communities it's okay. In New Zealand it is illegal to be married to more than one person at a time. So sometimes there could be cultural marriages. Louise, you'd probably hear about this in your line of work. That is also something that you can talk to police or other authorities about, because in New Zealand the law states very clearly it is illegal to be married to multiple people.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Phil. I was glad you were in the room, because I was looking at you thinking, I'm sure you will have a response to that. Yes, and yes, I have supported a few women that have come through refuge that are married and the partners got another wife somewhere else, which is...
One of them.
No. Sister Ange, please give her my number.
No, I'm coming down. I'm going to put my hand up to the police. I want to work out.
You got a police?
Yeah. I need to do the thing so I can get them. And then I'm going to cover.
Yeah, we are running out of time. I was supposed to do a group exercise, but I've been cut. My time has been cut by 50%, so this is good. This conversation taking place is good. We were going to split up into groups to do some role play, but we won't do that. Instead, just want to summarize some of the key points around domestic violence in New Zealand, which is family harm. Refuge, we still call it domestic violence, police calls it family harm, but it's the same thing. It's real, it is happening in New Zealand. The statistic is every 3. All good? Every 1 in 3 women is experience family violence, and Phil had the different stats as well up there. But as you know, we focus just on women and children here, in terms of refuge. It's real, it's happening, it doesn't discriminate, it's not just in a particular group, it is white, black, red, blue, purple, green, doesn't discriminate. It's not a poor people's issue, it affects everyone. And as Phil talked about too, when there is an argument, when there's an incident, if nothing is done, it doesn't go away, it just comes back, and it just escalates. And family violence doesn't start with a push or a punch. There's usually other stuff that starts, the psychological abuse, the isolation, the intimidation, the threat, and we move on to the physical. And back in the days, a lot of people may not seek help because if they haven't got bruises, it's not considered that bad. But actually, the psychological abuse is just as bad as the physical, if not worse. Because when you think about the bruises, it heals, but those wounds cut deep. and it does a lot of harm to people's mental and emotional well-being. So seek help early, speak to a trusted person, and from a black sister to the ethnic community, I know that it's not easy for us to ask for help, but find out one person that you do trust, and then from there, hopefully they can support you in the best way they can to actually, you need to get the support you need. Women's Refuge will support anyone and everyone. It's not just for a particular group, and it is a free service. It doesn't cost anything. We can go from education and prevention to intervention if that's what everyone wants. Healthy relationship was going to be my next slide. What is a healthy relationship? It's about having that mutual respect, effective communication, trust and honesty in your relationship, support and encouraging each other, and being your partner's cheerleader, being your children's cheerleader, being your best friend's cheerleader, and just being that support person. Shared values and goals, healthy boundaries. So, like my brother said, you know, though when you marry your partner, you're one, you become one, but recognizing actually they had a life before you became one. So acknowledging that and having those healthy boundaries where she might want to go and do something that might not be your thing, and that's okay. Just making sure you're looking at the same slide as me. Yep. Conflict resolution. So there's nothing wrong with arguing. Arguing is actually healthy in a relationship. It's actually saying, communicating your wishes and your wants. It's how you go about handling that argument. It's not using harsh words, not calling them names or calling him names, or putting him down or putting him down. It's listening, hearing them out, and saying, yeah, I hear you, babes, but this is also my view, and that's okay. So having effective conflict resolution and cultural, if you're, you know, a lot of people talk about it's a culture, we need to get rid of our culture to embrace the New Zealand culture. Let's not do that. Let's not lose our identity, who we are. It's all about celebrating that and taking from the New Zealand culture that you think it's suitable for you. We don't have to get rid of our own just because we're here. It's about still enjoying our culture and embracing other cultures if appropriate. So, where to get support? If you're looking for information or where to go for support and you're not sure what to do, Women's Refuge, there's an 0800 number. It's 24/7. The crisis line is being answered 24/7. I'm actually on crisis call today. The phone hasn't rang yet, which is good. It's good when the phone doesn't ring, but if it did ring, I would have to stop and answer that. Don't go calling the crisis line. Yeah, it's 24/7, and you will get a human being at the end of that phone that will answer your call and listen and support you through and put you through to where you need to go. There's over 40 odd refuge in New Zealand, so it's nationwide, it's not just Wellington. We've got Shakti also that provide culturally appropriate support for women and children that are needing that support. So that's a number to also keep. They're also 24/7. And it's also a free service. You've got Shine, you've got rate prices, and of course in an immediate emergency, call 111, call police. It's no longer, like Phil said, it's no longer, oh, it's just a private matter, let's not get involved. If someone is being harmed or hurt, you're hearing it, speak up about it. Don't be standing by. Speak up about it and get the support of that person. The earlier we seek support, the better. Questions? Does anyone have any questions?
I think it's a comment, and it's also supports what Gina asked at the beginning about tools
Yeah.
that we can use to support. And Diana has mentioned men, bringing up what the previous discussions have been, and you would have seen that today I didn't mention even men at the start, but now I've seen a lot of improvement in the narrative and the career. It's not only focusing on one side of what can happen, it can happen to everyone, and everybody too can get support. And I was listening to you and I could hear now that even though it's not, you say that you are representing women and children, men too can receive support, and you can show where they can receive their support. And I like how the conversation is now turning. I've been to about 5 of the discussions for almost as many ethnic groups as I can, and all the time I was getting concerned that it was focusing on us. Yeah, but now I think the conversation is changing, and my concern has been that if we don't let men also see that they can be supported, they feel they don't have anywhere to go, and that is what will make the abuse coming from that side increase. So if we keep making it balanced conversation that everybody can receive support, I think it will help us all. So thank you for listening to our questions.
Yes, other than that, all the men will go to Lusaka. Yeah, crazy. Because when you look at the statistics, honestly, where I work, we deal with prisoners, right? They put in the application, they come and stay. Sometimes I just look at it and I'm sad because it's the youth, 18, 23, 40, 35, 23, and some come, go, and come back. So they go, come back, go, come back. It won't help us. So if they are also here, at least, we wouldn't get them. Most of them, sometimes they will write this and that, I will be released today, I'll go maybe this time. The next 2 months, you see them back, and you are like, shocked, like, oh, I just processed this application for 2 months, the person was released, and the person is back again. What is it? So I think, as my husband said, if men are also head, like women are head, it will change the narrative, and that there will be a balance where everybody will be eager or anxious or happy to voice out what really is happening and how best we can solve it. Other than that, we just solve half of the puzzle and half will not be solved. Thank you.
Yes, Bill touched on that, that the stat is, the picture is women are the victim or survivors, and men are usually deemed as the abusers. We are getting more stats now coming through that showing a different narrative. So encouraging the men to
Come out.
yeah, trying to find a word, to
Voice out.
to start talking. Yeah, to start talking about the experience. And the earlier you start, then the earlier the intervention or support could be put in place for you. And then that start to change the picture for real, because at the moment the picture is one-sided. Yeah. And we know it's not, and we know it's not, some, and we know it's not always the case. That's what I was going to say. It's not always the case, but until we know what else, the outside of the story, we focus on just that side, what we're hearing. So I encourage the men, those in the room and those online, reach out, seek support. The earlier you do it, the better. And be the role models for the younger men coming through as well. It's okay to talk. It's okay to ask for help. There's a piece. Brother Wallace.
Yeah, so just listening to, what was shared about, the men and the role at home. So I think communication is a big, is a big part of the whole abuse equation, because if your partner doesn't communicate in terms of issues they are seeing in you that are a bit off, because for me, I think maybe I might be a bit broken, because sometimes my partner will say, "Oh, this is not right," but in my mind, it's based on my background, is what I've, grown up with. I didn't have my dad, my dad left us quite early, so I didn't have that, father figure to just sort of support me all the way like, others had. So in my mind, I'm doing what has worked for me, and it has not failed me. So, but again, when your partner, raises that hint and says, "Oh, you've acted differently," it calls, listening to what has been shared, it causes you to sort of reflect, and then, start that journey to sort of start listening to your other half, "Oh, actually, this is, I did wrong," then start, improving on yourself. Yeah.
Thank you. 1 minute, 1 hour exactly, which is perfect. I just wanted to say, on a serious note, oh, yes, before I wrap up.
Just a quick question. I just wanted to know, do we have men's refuge in New Zealand?
What is happening? What is happening, Judah?
I hear that there is a men's center in Auckland, and I've heard of one in Christchurch, but there isn't a men's refuge per se. There is so so in terms of women's refuge, when there's a call out and police goes and a police safety order needs to be issued to the aggressor, it could be a man or woman, because we get some of those cases where the woman is the aggressor, and they've been given a police safety order which requires that aggressor to leave the property. A lot of the time it's men that live in the property, and there was that, well, where do they go? That causes a whole different level of stress. Because then the woman stays in the house, and then he's required to leave for, could be 3 days, it could be 5 days, it could be 10 days, depending on the situation. Where do they go? And that just add on the stress and the pressure for that person having to leave that house right there and then, because it's not safe for them to be in the house. I'm aware of a PSO house, which is that's a police safety order. So there is a place where men can go rather than just being left in the street in their car or having to fork out for a motel. So there is a facility for men to go in the hut. That's a new thing that only started, I believe, this year or towards the end of last year. But there isn't, to answer your question, there isn't a men's refuge yet.
I think, was it last week?
Last week, yes.
You know the word we tell you?
Yeah.
The African men and all the other men here, it's not only African men, some migrant men he forget what he come from. In the law here, we're equal.
Yes.
Men and women, we're equal. But back home, we are different. So all the men, he bring the package or Africa way or other country way, bring package here, but package is not working here.
Yeah.
We are equal, but they have women's refuge. And we're looking after men.
But you have to go back home.
Yeah, Auntie, I understand you, but sometimes because of that equality here,
Yes.
women take advantage of the men.
No, not really.
It's very true because sometimes
Some of them, yeah, some of them, yes.
women are very creative,
Yes.
honestly.
Yes,
I
yes,
can just lie down here,
yes,
remove some of my hair,
yes,
beat myself,
yes.
and lie down here. And when you come and say, my husband beat me, would
No,
you
no,
believe?
yes, some of them. But here, they have a law, or your wife, you have to go to cook kitchen one day, and I cook my turn, and you cook your time. It's
See,
not African
that-
mentality say women have to do kitchen 24 hours.
No,
It's not work here.
yeah, it's not bad. In saying that, it's understanding between the
Yes,
two of you.
yes.
You understand?
Yes.
If you want your husband to cook, there's a way how to talk about it.
Yes.
But you can't just say, oh, because when we are back home, women always cook, so you are the woman, you should cook here.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
it's we are here. Everybody brings their money. I go to work, my
Yeah, I
husband
know,
goes to
yes.
work.
Yes.
So when you come back, if I come back early, I can make the food. If my husband comes home early,
Yes.
he too can make the food. It's food, we all eat. What if I come and say, I'll just make my own? I will bring the parallels.
Yeah, some
You
women we
understand?
get attention here, some women, but it's not all women. Other women educated in the brain, they know the way.
Yes.
But other women is not
They
educated
don't.
like me. I push the men here.
Yeah,
This is different.
but yeah, there should be a
I
balance.
think what we're sort of alluding to, what Eric was saying is, look, we do find some inconsistencies when it comes to what we call fictitious complaints. That has happened both ways.
Yes,
Now, it doesn't take us to tell you this. Psychological literature will tell you
yes,
that men's vendetta or men's aggression is displayed in a certain way. Usually physically, it's obvious, it's in your face. Easy to prove. Now, again, we're generalizing here, but psychology will tell you that women who try to retaliate, they manifest in very different ways. It may be not as obvious, it may be not a punch or a slap. It can be vindictive, it can be ruining a person's image, a man's image, it could be in ways that are very subtle but very damaging. So I understand that these complaints made about that, how do you prove the charge of gossip or hearsay or damaging reputation? Much harder than if you have the physical evidence, there's a black eye, a person saw it, he admits to it, he's in. So yes, I think the system and the law, like every other part of the law, is always 2 decades behind, because it's a very long and arduous process to change the law to be up to speed with the reality of what society is facing. So yes, we do acknowledge to an extent there is a disparity between how men generally manifest their violence and how women, generally speaking, manifest their ways in violence. And one's a little bit harder to prove than the other. And yes, in the court of law, while obviously the courts try to take a very objective stance, there is a perception, at least, whether real or not, I don't know, I'm not in the jury, I'm not a prosecutor, but there is a perception, generally speaking, that there is a favoritism when it comes to a said gender. And look, perceptions sometimes are a reality. And so that is a fair and valid comment for people to make, so don't be sidelined or isolated for saying these. I think the more we discuss, the more fruitful we become, and I think it comes down to what you were saying is it's okay to feel vulnerable. Even in parenting, Eric, you were saying the concept of, as men, there's a taboo to talk about our feelings. We've talked about this for years. It's okay to be vulnerable with the person that you say you love. Leave it at that.
Also, last week we had a question I asked, the question Judah asked, and because it is coming up again, I just want to say, you responded we don't have men's refuge in Wellington. You mentioned there's one in Auckland and now one Christchurch. And I want to say for all the African men here and online to know that there is an African Christian men. I mentioned to you after the discussion. It is not a formal group. It was started, I think, 10 or 11 years ago by a group of 5 men in Wellington. And every year we meet, we live home, we live our families, we gather, sometimes at a rancho, sometimes we travel outside Wellington, we go to Napier, and we camp ourselves from Friday to Sunday. And people, I see some crying, we discuss a whole lot of issues related to how to deal with your family, issues we face, including financial budgeting, retirement, so different topics. So without a formal men's refuge, I think that can, you mentioned that somebody can start a men's refuge something, and I think something like this can be an informal way where men can feel vulnerable and get support from other African men. So I just wanted to do that.
Because I go because I bicycle in the shop. Now let us say 4 o'clock.
I'm just going to add up in terms of
I thought you were gonna run me up.
which I think we are going to induct Phil into that group. Is the African Community Council also has a men's group. And we have been able to do that because we had some support from MSD, which is called the Change Makers Fund. And what we have been doing is that HCW didn't want to say we know what the men want. So what we did was to have a meeting, which was even led by Judah here, to know what the men want to discuss. Following from that, we gathered again to confirm what they actually say they want to discuss. And subsequently, we have been having a series of meetings concerning every issue for men's well-being. And we know sometimes there are several of them. And just last week, the conversation was around parenting and other issues related to men's life. So that is also just as Kwesi has indicated. Also another group, which I think going forward, continuing these discussions in this area would be also an important, and it's a safe space that can also become a refuge for men.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, Fred, I thought you were going to wrap me up, and I wanted to say a couple of things. Yes, the men's group, I saw the flyers, I thought that's fantastic. I didn't realize it's been going on for that long, over 10 years, that's really good. I just wanted to say Women's Refuge started up by a group of women, a small group of women, and 53 years ago, that saw a need. And the women's center that I work with started about 38 years ago. And those volunteers, it was a volunteer group. They used to, when a woman comes in or they call or they notice something, they would take that woman home. That's how they started, grassroots. There was no funding, nothing. It was gangster style in the sense of, you need help, we'll take you home. And obviously that created a lot of other issues. And then some funding was made available. And it's partially funded. A lot of the work we do is still do a lot of fundraising. My salaries, they were guaranteed. We have to apply for funding. So what I'm trying to say here is, it started off by a group of women. So I'm encouraging the men online here. You've already started some networking, great. Start making it somewhat formal where you can. Ideally, there shouldn't be a men's refuge. In an ideal world, there shouldn't be a woman's refuge or a men's refuge. But while we're making our way into that ideal world, if there's a need for men to have a men's refuge, then why not start it by a group of men here in New Zealand, Wellington? And will support you. I'll speak for myself. I will support you where I can. Peace, that my sister, you wanted to feel peace, and I hope you're feeling that peace. I just wanted to say it is a heavy topic, and there was some sharing done in the room. Let's not underestimate the impact that may have on us. I'm not a refugee. I've never experienced your journey, and just what you shared was raw, and I know it's probably just a tip of the iceberg. And you talked about if you were to start talking about what's going on, you just break down. So I know there's a lot that's going on for you, for a lot of women in this room, and those who hasn't spoken of, I know. So look after yourself, please. And those listening online, it's heavy. It's a heavy topic. Look after yourself. That includes the brothers in the room. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Man group? Yeah. What man?
Let's clap for Louise. Let's clap for Louise. And I think you all bear with me that it has been an inspiring conversation. Yes, we didn't have the turnout that we wanted, but then sometimes what happens in such sessions where you don't have too many people is that you are able to go in depth and have more in-depth conversations. And my sense is that the fill-on effect is to go ahead and share with the communities. And the recording is still available. And so we will be providing the link maybe after some time, after we've gone through a few things, we will share the link, and we would want you to share it with your communities, to listen to it, because everything that we have had here, if they listen to it, if they need support, if there is anything that they can do locally for themselves and for their families, I think that would be the greatest gift that you can give to them. And mind you, sometimes we tend to think that it is not my problem until it becomes your problem. Because if your community member is okay, it means that you're okay. Because what it means that you will not be called, or you may not be found in a way where you have to, even sometimes in a way, testify against your own people, which is the right thing to do because they are doing something else. But if you had been involved in the process of helping them to amend whatever challenges they are going through, it will not get to a point where now you have to step in a way that you have to. And so, thank you for your time. I know most of you could have been anywhere on this Saturday, but you have decided to spend your time here, and for that, we are grateful. And so, on behalf of the African Communities Council, and in thanking our funders, the Ministry of Social Development, through specifically the Ethnic Communities Innovative Fund, we want to thank all of you for coming. And to just so you know, as part of our wrapping up, just a couple of things. So there's still a bit of food at the back there. You can pick one container or one plate, fetch some food, and then you can use another plate to cover it, and then you can take it home for the family. There's also drinks. If you want to take extra drink, that's fine. There's still some African products which are now displayed, and so please go there, make your pick, and make an arrangement. And there's a way of paying it, and then you can pay for it, and then it will be nice. So there is an evaluation form going around, because usually we want to know how people are feeling and how important these projects are for them. And then also some of the information that you give, obviously, will be part of our report back to LSD. Know very well that as you fill this form, it is anonymous. even if you put any information that would identify you, we would not be forwarding that. Our report to MSD is such that MSD themselves says if you put any personal information in there, we are going to delete it and then we'll ask you to do it again. And so any information that you give, that will be passed on in our report to MSD. It's not even going to identify that it was a former refugee session that we had. It is from the African Community session on family and sexual violence. So you are not going to be identified. But what you'll be doing in filling the forms is that obviously, as part of all the contribution that you are making, what you are writing down, you are being part of the information that we are sharing with government and the work that is being done in this space, so to speak. So thank you very much for coming. If you have time to stay, to still have some conversation, that's fine. You are more than welcome. If you want to help us pack up, we are even more happy for you to do that. Thank you very much, and God bless you. We'll take a few photographs. So all of us will take one photograph, and then some selected people. Even if you want to take a photograph with you and your sister, all us will take it for you if you want to. And I have to take this opportunity to thank a few people